Hey everyone, Coomber Radio, episode number 270. I'll get your appetite excited because I've already recorded episode 271 and it's with Menno Henselmans, and actually it's one of the podcasts that I've really enjoyed. I wasn't really sure when I first fired up the Skype to him because there's a lot of stuff with him on YouTube talking about the keto diet, and I thought the conversation might go off in loads of weird little ways, but it was a brilliant podcast. He's a really cool dude. Anyway, look forward to that one next week. In the meantime, we've got a Q&A show. Tom is with me. Tom, hello.
Hello.
Tom, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm currently winding down as I'm off to China next week. So we're just tying off all of the loose ends because the Foundation Academy is launching soon and we're trying to get it all sorted.
Way! You mean it has launched?
Yes, it will have launched by the time this goes out, won't it?
Yes, it has launched. We've just got to finish some stuff behind the scenes, but people can now sign up and secure their place. That's what you mean, Tom?
I mean, it hasn't started yet. But yes, you can all sign up, and I hope everyone does, because to be fair, it's been a lot of work, and I'm genuinely really, really excited to get it all started, because I think people are going to find it fantastic.
Me too. If people have been paying attention, we've actually had to move back the start date of our course, because we've basically rebuilt loads of stuff, created a massive 380 page book. Like, it's been absolutely colossal. We've animated our course into 3D animation. We've got a new mobile app. Like, the new version of our Foundation Academy is incredible. So that's why we've moved the course start date. But if you go to bodytypenutrition.co.uk, click on the Academy tab, you can see our new course. You can have a look at all the details. And you can sign up because we start at the beginning of September. So if you want to know, I'm talking about in-depth stuff, all on calories, macronutrients, food labels, hydration, supplements, the dynamics of food, behaviour. We cover all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's been an enormous task, and I think we're all really proud of it. So, yeah, I hope to see a lot of people on it.
Tom, I think I counted the references at 467 that went into the book.
Jesus. I did not know that because I intentionally didn't count them. As I was going through and sort of reformatting them, I was like, mate, there's 30 pages of references here. I'm not even going to count these.
Yeah, just see people listening know. When I say 467 references, that means Tom's read all those papers. He hasn't read the abstract. He's read all those papers.
Yeah. It's one of the benefits of having a lot of friends in universities and stuff, because I can basically access any journal at this point, which has been fortunate because it saved me spending thousands of pounds to actually read those.
Yeah. What you mean? You've saved me loads of money.
Very true. Very true. But yeah.
Anyway, if you want to look at our new course, it's up, it's available. We're very excited about it. We're very proud. The 10-week course starts at the beginning of September. You'll be mentored personally by me and Tom throughout the course. But apart from that, we've got a load of questions from you, and me and Tom are going to answer them.
Yeah, we're getting better at this. We got through all of them last time, so...
We did. No promises this time.
We're starting a cruise. Right, okay, so we will start with question 1. Hi Ben, I've been listening and following your content frequently since I got into weight training around 5 years ago, and firstly would like to say the content you put out is consistently amazing. You must inspire so many people out there and change their lives for the better. So hats off to you for that. So my question, I've been training for around 5 years, and 4 of those years were spent training very hard, getting myself into a shape I could be happy with and sustainably maintain. This past year my training has taken a bit of a back seat, as I am now a father of an 18-month-old and have another one on the way. The majority of my spare time is spent as a family and being the best dad I can be. Good man. I still get to the gym 3 to 4 times a week, as I had a gym at work, so currently go in my lunch break. However, my workplace is now moving, so my free gym will be no more. This has got me thinking, if I just want to maintain my physique, do I need to now pay to go to a gym? So what I want to know is it possible to stay in shape and maintain muscle mass without a gym membership, just using bodyweight exercises as a means of creating a workout? Or what basic equipment would be required to achieve muscle maintenance at home? I would aim to do 3 to 4 bodyweight workouts at home per week for around 45 minutes to an hour each time. A bit about me, I'm 28 years old, 6 foot 1 inch, around 10 to 12% body fat. I can see my abs and obliques, so pretty lean, and I must have a decent metabolism. I'd really appreciate your thoughts or any advice you can give me, as there's so much contradictory articles out there. I know you'll give me an honest answer. Many thanks, Lee.
Well, Lee, I think most dads that had an 18-year-old month that are at 10% body fat and can see all their abs would probably be quite jealous. Because I can appreciate with any parent that when a child comes along, your body does kind of, we'll just say, get lower, you let go a little bit. You know, things aren't ideal. You're not sleeping as well as you'd like to. And I've spoken about this a lot, but sleep is just, you know, it has the power to just literally fuck everything up. Hunger hormones, the way that you feel, your emotional state, it just literally controls everything. And I know how I feel when I get a bad night's sleep. So anyway, right, body weight. I think the beautiful thing is that when you've built a certain amount of muscle mass, it is pretty easy to maintain it. Unless you give the body a reason to degrade that muscle mass, to start to catabolize it. And if you're eating a good diet, you're sleeping well, and you're still moving and stimulating that muscle tissue, you should keep it. And that's why when I had Dave Crossland on the show and we talked about steroids, and there's this perception around steroids that if you stop taking them, you kind of like deflate. And, you know, again, it's another scenario where, no, if you do things properly and you actually, you know, keep training your muscle, then the muscle mass stays. And this is the same in, you know, a non-enhanced individual. And I just want to mention that to give a little bit more context around this kind of topic. I have a home gym. I don't train purely body weight. I have tools in my gym. I have a little squat cage and a boxing bag and stuff like that. But I think one of the key things we need to do if we're going to change our training is you're going to have to invest time to literally learn new tricks. And I think that's where people struggle. Because you quite often walk in a gym, you have a plan and you're like, right, it's my lower body session, I do this, this and this. And then someone says, right, you've got no gym equipment today, what are you going to do? And you go, fuck, I can do this and this, but I haven't got the kit. And we then panic and really don't really know what to do because we're used to having certain equipment. So, you know, investing some time in literally going on YouTube for an hour and typing in body weight workouts, body weight tricks, body weight, like loads of stuff, and just start to write down like, oh, that's a good combo. I've never thought about doing that. Or actually, yeah, I could fill up a 5-litre water bottle or 2 of them and use them in a weighted lunge or something like that. I think another important consideration now we're starting to change the weight variable is knowing that we can change other variables. So the first thing is tempo, right? If you got into a press up position, got mega tight, and I'm talking about every muscle, glutes, quads, hamstrings, core, shoulders, you packed everything and got super tight. You gripped your hands, so you're almost slightly on your fingers, and you took 5 seconds to go into a press up and then 5 seconds to push out of a press up. I bet you can't do more than about 6 to 7 high quality push-ups by creating that much tension through your whole body. So now a squat is no longer a squat. We can say, right, can I do 6 seconds down and do a jumping squat? Can I hold at the bottom? Can I hold a water bottle on my chest at the bottom? Can I put a band against a wall so that I start to load into my hips more, kind of like almost like a sissy squat? Like, there's just loads of different ways that we can do things, but remember, there will be an investment of time to sit down and go, right, now this is my new home workout that I'm using my body weight, because you won't just be able to turn your normal gym program into a home body weight program. And I think there's an awful lot of cool stuff you can do with your body weight.
Very true. I mean, as you said there, obviously to maintain muscle, like this guy's being realistic. He's not saying like, look, I want to continue making tons of progress, because as you said, you are changing the variables, and therefore you're not going to keep progressing in the same manner. So you might notice that your body may change, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look worse and you're going to be like weaker. Just for example, if you're used to bench pressing heavy amounts of weight, your pecs may not stay the same size if you're only doing press-ups, but that's not necessarily to say that your chest will shrink. It's not going to say that your chest is going to look small, it'll just be different. But as you mentioned, you do need less volume to actually maintain muscle mass. So the amount of work that you have to do to gain muscle is significantly more than you have to do to keep it. So I believe I can't remember who wrote it, but I believe there was a research paper that came out recently which basically suggested that you can stop training for about 2 weeks before muscles start to deteriorate anyway. And I believe Lyle McDonald is quoted as saying that you can maintain muscle mass with about 1/3 of the volume as it takes to gain it. So you don't need to do the same amount of work. And the thing is, if you've only had your lifestyle change recently because obviously you're a new father and you've changed your job and stuff, it's probably not going to be a permanent situation. So I think aiming for maintenance for this period of time is really wise. As Ben said, it's a really good idea to like really learn how to do this because, as you said, if you asked me to do a bodyweight routine, I'd do like press-ups and sit-ups, I'd do some squats and lunges, and then I'd be like, I'm done. I haven't got a clue what to do now. I can't do handstand press-ups. I've tried and it was embarrassing. But I mean, there's books that you can buy. As you say, there's loads of stuff you can find on YouTube, but the book Convict Conditioning comes to mind. That's a really good sort of resource for people who are training with primarily body weight, like the calisthenic movement was quite big, and that was one of the books they usually recommend. But aside from that, if you're asking what equipment to buy, Ben, you may have some other ideas as well, but I would suggest some kind of pull-up bar. That's one thing, I don't know whether this is my lack of knowledge or not, but I think training your back with literally zero equipment is very difficult. So if you're looking at a pull-up bar, perhaps like an adjustable frame or something where you can get like a standard pull-up dip station that falls down, like that could be useful, or bolt something onto the side of your house that you can probably build from B&Q. And then I'll probably suggest you find a kettlebell. A decent 24 kilo kettlebell or so. Just it means that you can then add some external resistance to things like bodyweight squats. You can learn a pistol squat because it gives you some like counterbalance, so it might make your balance a little bit easier. I have heard CrossFitters say that pistol squatting with weight is easier than without, which again is another movement. I'd agree with that. Yeah, it's another movement that I've tried and failed horrifically at. But if an external weight helps you learn it and adds resistance, then that can help maintain your lower body. Because again, if you're used to squatting and leg pressing, it may be difficult to maintain leg development without those more advanced techniques. But yeah, that's kind of what I'd recommend. And I'd certainly say that to be in the shape that you are, as Ben said, with a kid is really impressive. And I don't think you should be too concerned about keeping it, especially if this is going to be something that says like a year, 18 months, and then you can go back to a gym.
I think what is beautiful in this question is me to challenge the listeners now in that where this guy is, where Lee is in his journey, it sounds like Lee is pretty happy with like his overall muscle mass and his body composition. And I think this is a great place to be in. So for example, if Lee wasn't, Lee would maybe have a little bit of kind of anxiety about leaving the gym and going and working out at home because he's trying to progress on his goals. And I would argue that training at home, it would be difficult to build a significant or decent amount of muscle mass in an intermediate to experienced trainer because you're just really going to struggle to get the load. In a beginner to intermediate, you're going to be fine. There's going to be loads of gains to be had. Yeah. But as soon as you get a bit more advanced, that's when the volume really comes in. Like, you know, I'm, let's just say 10 years into my training journey now, and I'm training legs 3, maybe 4 times a week at the moment to really try and put muscle on my legs. That's how, if I try to do that at home, it just wouldn't happen. Like, just I'd literally get nothing. So my challenge is this, is that if anyone is listening that feels that they have mastered or they're really happy with their muscle mass, stop training in the way that you do and train in all the ways that you should do. Now, what I mean by that, So if my body was fully functional, and I know it's not, I can't straighten my right arm, I currently want my legs to be a bit bigger, like I'm happy with my upper body mass. Let's say my arm worked, and let's say my lower body was proportionally a size that I was happy with, which is something I'm working towards. If I was in that place, I would stop training the way that I am. And I would train to do cool stuff. And what I mean is, you know when you're flicking through Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and you're seeing people doing like walking handstands down the road and like being able to go up steps on their hand and being able to do a pistol squat, like holding their child above their head and being able to just do all these different things. When you train, like we've said, you're gonna keep on with your muscle mass. So if you went in your garage and you literally did a workout of trying to master the pistol squat and then did a few kind of like core exercises, you would maintain your lower body muscle mass by that alone. Because the amount of stimulus, the amount of isometric tension you're going to be putting on those muscles just from playing and falling over and holding it and practicing, you're going to have enough load. So what I'm trying to say is, I want, and this is just my perception, this is the way I look at the world, I want my body to do as many cool things as humanly possible. Right now I'm thinking of stopping playing rugby and pursuing a new sport. But I don't know what that new sport is. Why? Because I want to challenge my body in a different way. I want to see what it's capable of in a different environment. And if I was in Lee's position, having what I think has mastered his body to a degree, I'd say to Lee, right, for the next month, your one lower body exercise to try and master a pistol squat. Because how badass is it? And I bet your ankle, knee and hip would function really well if you could do a pistol squat. I bet your knee joint would be absolutely bulletproof because it can control the perfect amount of load, which is your body weight. And it means that the length tension relationship between your ankle, your knee and your hip is probably really good if you can get into that position with good back posture. If you're rounding over loads, then that would be your next challenge, to be able to get in a pistol squat with good back posture. So, I think Lee's got an opportunity to really master kind of his body here. And that is personally what I would do. There's obviously some really cool people out there that you can learn bodyweight stuff off. Ido Portal, his documentary has just come out on London Real TV. I'd maybe check out that. Ido Portal's a master of bodyweight. Andy McKenzie, who's been on this podcast, he's great at it. The School of Calisthenics, they're coming up on this podcast in about 2 months' time. There's loads of people with cool stuff out there. As for equipment, there's some easy tools. Tom's mentioned a pull-up bar, which you can do pull-ups on. You could even raise your feet and end up doing like a row by just changing the angle of your body. You could maybe get a TRX, which you could put in a door frame. You can get something called what's it called? Basically, it's a TRX, but with a rotational mechanism in it. And its strapline used to be called pull the pin. And basically it means that you can use it as a TRX, but then you can pull the pin and you can do rotational exercises on it. It's a really good bit of kit.
That's good.
Yeah, Andy McKenzie was the master trainer for it when I was working with Andy at the gym. We were in the training lab. You've got different resistance bands, which you can do cool stuff with. Tom's mentioned a kettlebell. I would probably get some water carriers. You could get some dumbbells, like go onto Gumtree or Argos, and I bet you can pick up some second-hand dumbbells that people don't want anymore for like 25 quid by travelling for 45 minutes in your car. Then I'd get some fat grips, which change the load and your grip recruitment loads. If you're training outdoors, you might get some heavy old shipping chains that don't really cost a lot. If you've got space, like a boxing bag. I know that I'm kind of expanding here from body weight, but there's a few things that don't take up a lot of room and could be quite beneficial. Yeah,
you could look at some things like you could find an old tractor tyre if you live anywhere that has those kinds of things. And a sledgehammer is 15, 20 quid? And that's a pretty difficult conditioning exercise right there. You can use the tyre for like farmers' holds and farmers' walks as well. So there is a lot you can do with very minimal equipment. I think that's that, really.
Yeah. If we're honest, the most badass people I know mainly train with body weight.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I would say on that, just sort of in fairness, a lot of the guys that train purely body weight have fantastic physiques, but they train for a lot of hours. Like, in order to get sufficient volume to get significant amounts of hypertrophy, you're going to have to train with body weight for a long time. So the 45-minute workouts that Lee's able to do may not take him to that sort of level, which is why I've kind of mentioned maintenance of muscle rather than necessarily gaining. But that's not to say that 45 minutes isn't enough. It's enough to maintain what you've got if you've already built like a significant physique. If you're someone that's never really trained a great deal before, 45 minutes of body weight is hard. So that's going to build muscle anyway. But yeah.
Cool. Well, I hope that helps, Lee.
Yeah. So, should we crack on with question 2?
All right.
Excellent. Cool. Hi, Ben. I listen to your podcast often and wanted to see if you had any advice on this. Since I started training, I've gone from cardio bunny to strength training to bodybuilding, and have now settled into a way of training that works for me by combining all of these things with my focus being on performance and skills rather than aesthetics, as this was not making my training enjoyable. My goals are to improve speed, agility and power, as well as muscle endurance. I enjoy training at high intensity with circuits, using cardio, functional training styles and weights, etc. The training is not only enjoyable for me, it suits the amount of time I have to spend in the gym as well. Do you think there will be a different approach to nutrition for this type of training compared to bodybuilding? I do not want to lose the muscle/glutes I have built already. Further to this, if you think there is any particular exercise you think will help with increasing my power/speed, I do try to measure this with sprint speeds and box jumps, aiming to get higher. Any thoughts would be great. Thanks, Fiona.
Well, Fiona, firstly, a mixed style of training I think is always good. I think that's why I love rugby and just training around rugby, because I'm always doing, fast movement, heavy movement, isometric holding, and I really like that. In terms of nutrition, obviously the main thing that's going to change is that you may change your overall energy expenditure, and that needs to be accounted for. You might have slightly different timing strategies. The work might be longer, so you might eat sort of sooner before the workout. You might fuel the workout if it's longer, like you might sip on some like a carbohydrate and electrolyte formula while you train if you're training for quite a while. Otherwise, I think they would be sort of the main considerations. Now, I am no expert in power and speed at all. So I'm not going to profess to be. And I know that there's a lot of differing opinion on the best ways to develop power and speed. So I think the main things that we need to look at is you need to have stuff incorporated in your training where it sounds silly, you move fast. So doing things like sprint training, and quite often when we're doing things like explosive training, you don't have to be moving for long periods of time. In fact, you want to be moving for very short periods of time. So think of things like a box jump, think of something like throwing a sledgehammer, think of tossing a shot put above your head, think of sprinting for 6 to 10 meters, think of bounding and hopping, and like explosive lateral lunging from one knee to the other. And talking about lateral lunging, I think that's a really important component that's probably overlooked in a lot of people's training, is training through the different planes of motion, because so much of what we do in the gym is through the sagittal plane, and we need to look at the transverse plane. Is it called the lateral plane?
Transverse plane. I was never any good at this.
It's been a while since I have gone through the textbooks, and I think it's sagittal, lateral, and transverse. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and then you threw me there.
Yeah. Tom will Google it while I carry on.
It is. It posterior anterior. No, there is a lateral plane.
Yeah, cool. All right, phew. So, not many people are training that. And it's something actually I've started to do a bit more in my training, where I was thinking about, okay, I'm getting loads of volume in the sagittal plane, but, if I'm going to run across a rugby field and I'm going to sidestep, how strong are, the kind of, let's say, the lateral area of my quad? How strong is the knee going in that direction of force? So in developing power and speed, a muscle and ligament needs to be strong throughout its full range, when it's not just going in, a sagittal force, when it's going in other forces. So, and this is really important from an injury prevention perspective, because when we look to apply force maximally, which often happens at high speed or when we're trying to develop explosive power, bad shit can happen. And that's the key thing. So actually being strong in every possible area is really, really, really key. So having training that covers multiple planes of movement is really, really important. So I've already listed a load of stuff there. I think a lot of this stuff can be done in the activation component of a workout as well. So if you're going into the gym to do a lower body session, you might use things like explosive bounds, hops, jumps, lateral steps, ladder work as actual part of your warm-up, but you're also developing your power and speed component.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that kind of jumped out to me there was goals are to improve speed and power as well as muscle endurance. Now, those two can be quite difficult to work on at the same time because obviously they use very different energy systems. So to work on sort of speed and power, especially if you're measuring that with like sprints and box jumps, you're probably going to be using, as Ben said, single explosive maximal effort muscle contractions, which is primarily going to be your fast twitch muscle fibers, and there's going to be like a neural component to that. So it's how efficient your central nervous system is activating those muscle fibers maximally. And that just takes practice. So the thing is with sprint training, like a lot of people who want to improve sprint training will do sprint training entirely wrong. So what they'll do is they'll set up like a 50-meter sprint, and they'll do a big sprint, rest 10, 15 seconds, then do another sprint. If you watch actual sprinters doing their sprint training, it looks really lazy, because it's the same as like if you were to do a heavy set of 2 on the deadlift. Like you'll do a very small amount of work and then you'll rest for like 5 to 10 minutes before you can do it again maximally. And that's the more effective manner of actually improving your speed. Then as far as muscle endurance goes, that's a lot easier to develop. I would say that would just become a case of trying to improve the amount of reps that you're able to do in whatever circuits that you do, or potentially reducing rest times, increasing the number of sets as opposed to the number of reps. It's just doing more stuff. It's improving the speed that's a little bit more difficult. There's been a study that came out recently, because up until not long ago, it was theorized that the hip thrust was potentially the best movement for improving sprint speed. And that's been kind of shown to not be the case. You're much better off doing deep, relatively heavy squats. But as Ben said, you want to be moving quite quickly. So the thing is with all of your weight training, if you're trying to improve speed, you should keep your RPE, which is like rate of perceived exertion, quite low. So your bar speed's moving nice and quickly. If you ever watch Olympic lifters, which are probably like the primary example of power athletes, like the amount of speed that they can use is unbelievable. All of their movements are very fast. So they'll squat what look like incredibly heavy weights, but you never see a grinder. So just focus that on making sure that it's quality movements, quality reps. Try not to grind things out. And as you start approaching fatigue, where you can't use power anymore, kill the set and rest until you're able to go again. The only other thing I was going to add there is just because the question obviously centered around nutrition as well. As Ben said, basically it just comes down to energy intake. So bodybuilding training, although it may be tiring when you do legs, isn't that energy expensive. But doing stuff like high intensity circuits, cardio and functional training, etc., can be. So you may find that you need to eat a bit more, even if your workouts don't necessarily take as long, because you're spending a lot less time rested. And that calorie increase should primarily come probably from carbohydrate, just because you are going to be using glycolytic energy systems a lot, and you're going to need that fuel, and you're probably not going to get it effectively if your calorie increase comes mostly from either fat or protein.
With this conversation around lots of different training styles on today's podcast, I think, we all need to appreciate that there's a certain amount of time that we have to devote to training, and there's a certain outcome that we expect as individuals. Now, it seems that Fiona is really just a passionate recreational trainer. She's not actually competing in anything. So developing actual really decent levels of greater power and speed is going to be difficult because she's starting to or wants to progress at other stuff as well. If she was an athlete, and let's just say she was a sprinter or an Olympic lifter, there's going to have to be a proportionate amount of time dedicated to developing power and speed, and something like strength endurance is much more secondary, if not really in the background, because you're never really going to be able to excel at developing power and speed. So we have to accept that if you want to kind of develop multiple things, you're going to have to averagely develop multiple things. And as long as you're happy with that, then that's totally cool. So a recreational trainer like Fiona, I would probably personally try and develop power and speed in the first 20 to 25 minutes of your training session. So you do a bit of mobility, you do activation, and then your power and speed stuff is all probably based around technique and warm-up, so doing big leaps, big bounds, maybe some jumping squats, single leg, kind of like lunge-based bounds, box jumps, that kind of stuff, and then go in and do like 6x4 on the heavy back squat, do some speed deadlifts after that, and then do some accessory high volume like glute bridges, some hamstring curls, something like that, and build a workout like that. And then that might consist of like 3 sessions a week of your training, and then 1 or 2 sessions a week of your training might be that you go out and do one long run, and then on another day you do like interval based run. So you might run at a certain heart rate for a minute, and then slow down for 3 minutes, and then go up for a minute. So kind of something like that. Obviously, you need to decide what your training actually is, and because you've only given us a limited amount of information, we're just shooting in the dark. But hopefully for everyone listening, that gives you enough context to go, okay, what am I training for? Why am I training? Am I building muscle? Am I maintaining muscle? Am I trying to lose fat or maintain body weight? What is it that I enjoy? And then you can start to go away and really think about your training yourself.
Yeah, that's good. Another approach that you could potentially take would just be to periodize it. So you could either do that whereby you have a 3-month block where you focus almost entirely on speed, agility, and power, then a 3-month block where you'll focus on muscle endurance, hypertrophy, general circuit training. Or you could do it with like a daily undulating plan. So say, for example, you go to the gym on Monday, you do some low volume squats, deadlifts, potentially Olympic lifts if you can do those. Take Tuesday off, and then Wednesday and Friday you focus a bit more on the endurance capacity sort of side of things. So you could maybe focus workouts on those different aspects rather than trying to do them all at the same time. And that's personally the way that I would set it up, but as Ben says, it very much depends on how you enjoy training. So you said there you enjoy training high intensity with circuits, cardio and functional training styles. So if what I've just said sounds boring as sin, then for God's sake don't do it, because you ain't going to stick to it. The only last thing there, is there any particular exercises that will help increase power and speed? If you can Olympic lift, I would probably do those. But other than that, I would say some pretty decent, high quality but relatively heavy kettlebell swings can be quite useful for improving your hip strength. Specific jump training, practicing sprinting, because you don't get better at sprinting doing many things other than sprinting. But then it would just be, relatively heavy, so 1 to 3 rep, high quality, lower body movements. Trap bar deadlifts can be quite useful if you find deadlifting a bit awkward. I prefer trap bar deadlifts for a lot of athletes actually, just because they're a lot easier on the lower back. It means you can then do other stuff without being so fatigued.
Nice. Cool. Well, we'll just finish up with the last. It's not a question, it's a bit of a letter into the show, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, I think there's some conversation points in it as well, which is cool. So, dear Ben, I just listened to your new podcast with the Dog Father, and I really needed that podcast, so I just wanted to email and say thank you. Basically, I was in law school and was not far from graduating. I was feeling completely burned out and hated the course, really. I started law school because all my friends went to uni, and I felt like I had to as well. I had no passion whatsoever to become a lawyer and was experiencing a lot of stress and discomfort, both physically and mentally. I didn't sleep, I suffered from insomnia, I ate bad food, stopped exercising, and basically lost myself in doing something that I hated. 3 months ago, I made a huge decision. I decided that I wanted to choose for my own happiness and that I wanted to follow my passion. Therefore, I quit law school. I always loved going to the gym and eating healthily and balanced, but because I was doing something I hated, it was just going in a downward spiral. But after a long decision-making process and thinking about what makes me happy, I decided I wanted to become a personal trainer and move back to London. I lived there while studying abroad for a semester, but currently back in the Netherlands where I'm from. I'm currently working a full-time job in order to save money. It's going very well so far. I feel extremely motivated to reach my goal, but sometimes I do hesitate and start wondering if what I'm doing is crazy and that I can't do it, that I'm not good enough, or that I will not succeed once I actually move to London. That's why I loved your new podcast. It gives me the boost to think more positively. I already got this far. I made a huge decision that's already started to make a positive impact on my life. I go to the gym again. I enjoy strength training more than ever. I enjoy eating healthily again, and I'm working on improving my mental health and stress levels. I know that I can motivate people, and that with the right personal training course and knowledge, I can be a great personal trainer. And I probably won't be the best at everything, who is, but at least I'm trying and improving myself. Just needed a little reminder, I guess. Thank you for the podcast and being my motivation to help to think more positively and start believing in myself. Love, Annalise.
Annalise, that's awesome. And I'm really glad that the podcast, empowered you to kind of take that step. It's awesome. It sounds like Tom's got a couple of things that he wants to pick up on. I think all I really want to say in this is that, when we don't know how a situation is going to pan out, or we're going to go into a unknown environment, it's right to be fearful because it is the unknown. You don't know how it's going to pan out. You don't know if you're going to, earn the money that you expect to, or you're going to be around people that you like to, or, you're going to be liked in your environment, all that kind of stuff. And it sounds corny. You got to take the Nike slogan on the chin and you just got to do it. You've got to dive in with both feet, and you've just got to say, right, let's react. Okay, I'm an adaptable person. I believe in myself and my ability. Let's go. And nothing bad is going to happen. Sometimes when we go into an unknown environment, we literally think the earth beneath our feet is going to open and just swallow us up. And it's not going to do that. Most people are supportive. If you ask for help, you'll get help. And really, what's the worst that can happen if something doesn't happen out in a career change? We end up on our mate's sofa. But at least, we had a go at it. We either have learned how to do it differently the next time, or we've learned that maybe it's not the right move for us. And, that is, I think, just part and parcel of chasing the things that we really want to do.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of touched on the only real thing that I wanted to talk about here, but it was mostly just along the lines of, I think it's really cool that, and I think it's quite brave that Annalise actually dropped out of law school to then go and chase her passion, because a lot of people don't do that. Like, it's a big sunk cost. Like, you've started this course, you've done a lot of work. Obviously, you said you've nearly finished, so I can imagine, I've never been to law school, but I can't imagine it's the easiest thing to do in the world. So you burn yourself out, tried incredibly hard. It would be so easy to then finish, because then you're avoiding making that decision. And the problem with that is 5 years down the line, you're probably going to be more miserable. And then you've got a bigger sunk cost to then get rid of in order to make a good decision. So I just think it's really cool when people sort of take control, take a step back and go, do you know what? This isn't making me happy. I'm going to do something that is. Because your choice is to either do it now, do it later, or be forever miserable. And of the three choices, which are the only three you've got, the first one's the only one that actually makes sense. So, yeah, it's brave and it's cool, but I think you made the right decision if it's making you happier.
Yeah, there's a massive component of cost to university. I still have 20 grand's worth of debt from university, and I've actually just had my tax return through. And I've seen the figure, and I am not happy.
No, it's sickening.
I'll be honest, uni was a long time ago, and I'll be honest in that I have not budgeted for that outgoing of cash. So, if anyone needs a kidney, I've got one for sale. Right, thank you all for listening to the show. You've been amazing without even knowing it, but you do know it. I know you know it. I will see you next week on the show with Menel Henselmans, and I will be back with Tom either on the show after or the show after that. We'll see. Otherwise, in the meantime, stay awesome. If you want to do an incredible online nutrition course and be mentored by Tom and myself over the next 10 weeks at the beginning of September, then please do check out the Body Type Nutrition Foundation Academy online at bodytypenutrition.co.uk. Otherwise, Tom, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ben.
And all of you lot, stay awesome. Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 269.